TheAnswer.com, on the AM560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki has been quite on a tear this week. Starting with chastising House Republicans who voted against the $4 trillion socialist tax and spend-a-thon, the Build Back Better, as the Biden-istas call it, but not really making the sale with the public. Anyway, here's Jen Psaki's explication of Bidenomics.
You saw every single Republican in the House vote against Build Back Better. What were they voting against? Yes, they were voting against the president's agenda. They were also voting against lowering costs. They were voting against lowering costs for childcare, lowering costs for elder care, lowering costs for health care.
I wish somebody would, in the Republican ranks, would make the argument, would pick up on these sorts of statements and give the American people who don't already get it a little bit of a lesson in economics 101. Subsidizing something doesn't lower its costs, it increases it. So what the government does is subsidize, increase the cost, and then socialize the payment. But you're not reducing the cost. You're reducing the cost for a certain cohort while you're increasing the overall cost and spreading it out. That's the actual policy. And so if you want to do that, then we can talk about whether or not that makes sense to do. But let's at least be honest about what we're doing. Jen Psaki is preternaturally incapable of being honest. And then yesterday, we get Jen Psaki going after big meat.
I know.
To explain price increases at the grocery store.
There are several progressive groups and lawmakers who are increasingly vocalizing the idea that high inflation is being driven by corporate greed, including companies with high profits, some of whom have met at the White House with the president in recent months. Does the president endorse that idea? Does he think that corporate greed is the big driver of inflation right now?
Well, I think that the president thinks the way people across the country, American families, digest inflation is by price increases. And if you look at industry to industry, it's a little different. So, for example, the president, the Secretary of Agriculture have both spoken to what we've seen as the greed of meat conglomerates. That is an area where people go to the grocery store and they're trying to buy a pound of meat, 2 pounds of meat, 10 pounds of meat. The prices are higher. That is, in his view, and the view of our Secretary of Agriculture, because of, you could call it corporate greed, sure. You could call it jacking up prices during a pandemic. There are other areas where we've seen increases because of supply chain issues, and we're seeing those increases around the world as it relates to gas prices, oil supply, and things along those lines. So I would say there's some areas where we have seen corporations profit from the pandemic, and certainly the president would agree with that component. I don't know the full context of all of their remarks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, some companies have, but enough about Amazon. If you want to make a charge of price fixing, you want to make a charge of illegal activity, you make a charge like she has made against meat conglomerates, then how about you provide some evidence? I mean, she is just a disgrace. And this happens on the same day that you get the Producers Price Index up 9.6% year over year. Why does that matter? Because the producer price increases get passed on to the consumer in terms of price increases. Maybe that has something to do with it. And the profligate monetary and fiscal policy of, to some extent, the previous administration as it pertained to COVID, and to the full extent this administration as it pertains to both sides of that financial house. Maybe that has something to do with why steak is up 25% year over year at the grocery store, Jen. For more on this, pleased to be joined by our friend Steve Moore, Trumponomics author, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist. Steve, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, guys. Good morning. And, by the way, I worked alongside Jen Psaki for almost a year when I was imprisoned at CNN back in, I think that was in 2017. And, I got to know her a little bit. And go easy on her. She doesn't know anything about economics. I mean,
okay. Fair enough.
I mean, she's just parroting. My point is, she's just parroting what, the economic geniuses over at the White House are telling her to say. She's very much like Biden himself. She's just reading the teleprompters or regurgitating the economic nonsense. Look, it's a big problem for the White House right now. It's melting down. It's a meltdown right now over there. Biden's approval ratings are just sinking like a rock. You're seeing the approval of Big Build Back Better, which is lower every single day as people realize what's in this bill. You are exactly right in terms of the idea that when you subsidize something, its cost actually goes up. I mean, is healthcare less expensive now today than it was before the government got involved with Medicare and Medicaid and Obamacare?
College education.
Is K through 12 education free? No, it's more expensive than ever before. And then, of course, the best example is higher education, where we keep providing tens and hundreds of billions of dollars to aid the universities. And gee, what's happened to university tuitions? They go up and up and up. Well, and so, and I think I mentioned this last week. This study that I kind of previewed for you guys by Casey Mulligan has really gone viral, showing that, if you get the subsidies, if you're one of the half of the families that gets child care that gets the subsidies, your costs go down. Guess what? If you don't get the subsidies, your costs are going to go way, way up. Your child care, for some people, if you make more than about $65,000 a year and you're not eligible for the child care subsidies, you're going to pay, by Casey's estimate, about $25,000 a year more this year, or next year, I should say, for child care. Gee, what a bargain that is. But the good news, again, I think that this bill is in really big trouble right now. You've got high inflation. They can't explain how another multi-trillion-dollar spending bill is going to reduce inflation. That's a laughable concept. They can't explain their phony numbers. They were using fraudulent budget numbers. And now even Joe Manchin is saying, look, this bill is bad for America, bad for West Virginia. I don't see how they get to 50 votes in the Senate. I don't see how they get there.
I mean, high inflation, this is a 40-year all-time high. Gas up 58%. Used cars, hope your car doesn't break down. Used cars, 31%. New cars, 11%. And then again, meat, poultry, fish, and eggs are collectively up 12.8%. I mean, you literally get sticker shock when you go to the grocery store. But what is to blame, and when will it end? Because I heard, I think it was maybe
Amy,
you on Fox saying that this will be done in 2023.
Yeah, Amy, you just didn't get the memo. The way we solve the inflation problem is we pass the Build Back Better bill.
Oh, yeah.
And we spend another $3 to $4 trillion, and then everything's going to be so much cheaper.
But what did they think was going to happen when they threw thousands of dollars at us during the pandemic?
What's that?
What did they think was going to happen when they threw thousands of dollars at us during the pandemic?
They have turned economics upside down, and they really do think we're idiots. They think the American people are idiots, and that we're gonna buy this stuff, that they're saying, and it's so laughable. I mean, the idea that spending more money is going to bring inflation down. I mean, that's crazy. If you've got a 7th grade education, that's not true. They say, oh, it's going to be free. It's not going to cost something dime. You guys remember that old show, that Get Smart show? Remember that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Remember that line that Get Smart used to use? Like, missed it by that much. Well, they estimated that it was going to cost nothing, and it turns out they missed it by that much. No, it's not going to cost nothing. It's cost $3 trillion. Gee, that's a little bit of an error.
No, that's the Congressional Budget Office numbers fake, according to Jen Psaki.
It's fake, yeah. When they like the numbers, they herald them and say, see, and then when, of course, the CBO comes out, what happens, just so your listeners know, is they actually started telling the truth. How dare the CBO tell the truth about what this bill is going to really cost? And so this is quite a quandary for them. I'm with Larry Kudlow. I think this bill is a lot of trouble, and it's exactly the opposite of what the Biden administration, the Democrats keep saying, if people just knew what was in this bill, they would love it. No, actually, the more people find out what's in this 2,492-page monstrosity, the more they hate it.
Oh, and by the way, as you know, Steve, the CBO normally undershoots the cost of things. For example, their track record on Obamacare. Yes.
Great point. Great point, Dan. And that's a really important point, because even with their new estimate of $3 trillion over 10 years, we think that's actually an underestimate. We think it's going to be closer to $4.
And so you think Manchin holds, and as long as Manchin holds, this thing is done, and also that they have to get it done before Christmas, or just the weight of all this effort to get this done before the end of the year won't be there come the new year?
Well, Dan, I would never bet my life on anything Joe Manchin does. I mean, he's a politician. He says one thing one day, one thing another. I'm just saying that if you actually read his statement of what he said, I think it was back about 4 or 5 days ago, where he just ripped this bill. I mean, he ripped it, more than I've been ripping it, saying how horrible it's going to be. It's going to make inflation worse. It's going to make the debt worse. It's bad for the West Virginia coal miners. And going on and on and on. I mean, Dan and Amy, how do you actually then end up voting for a bill that you've spent the last 6 months trashing?
One other question before we let you leave. How should we interpret, how do you interpret this huge stock sell-off by corporate titans like Elon Musk? Usually you see the CEO of Microsoft, Elon Musk, selling billions of dollars worth of stock, and maybe you start to think they know something about where the market's going that I should know.
Well, I mean, Elon Musk is by the way, I thought it was a great choice making him the Time Magazine Man of the Year. I don't always agree with Elon Musk, but he is an incredible visionary and innovator and entrepreneur. It's incredible. He took a company, Tesla, that was just a concept a few years ago, and now it's $1 trillion net worth company. It's just incredible, the stuff he has done. And incidentally, I don't know if you saw the tweet from your good friend Elizabeth Warren this morning. I mean, trashing Elon Musk. Oh, he's just a freeloader. Freeloader? Who's free? Now, look, it is true Elon Musk has taken a lot of government subsidies. I will admit that. But who's freeloading here? I mean, this is now $1 trillion company, and with the 25% capital gains tax and the 25% corporate tax rate, that means the freeloader is the government. The government can take half of that.
Right. He shot back at Warren saying he's a freeloader, saying, don't spend all my tax dollars in one place. Oh, wait, you already have. It's good, and I appreciate his anti-establishment sentiments. But you think this is from Musk and from others, it's not just him, you think this sell-off by them of their stock interests is just a preparation for some tax increases that may be coming in this administration, or you think it's where they think the market is going when the Fed starts to taper and then interest rates go up?
I think a little bit of both. I'm not optimistic about the stock market right now. I mean, the market's been on an incredible tear for the last 18 months. But I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'd sell my stocks, but I certainly wouldn't buy into this when we're going into an inflationary era. But it is also true that they are being very cautious about the massive increase in tax rates, and they're trying to sell their assets now before they get taxed at these, punitive rates that are coming in. But I got to tell you, I do think we are going to kill this bill, Dan and Amy. Kill the bill. It's bad for America. By the way, there's 4 new states that are now looking at abolishing their income tax, and unfortunately, Illinois is not one of them.
All right. Well, that killing the bill would make it a merrier Christmas, that's for sure. Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, Trumponomics author, economist. Steve, thanks as always.
Have a great week, guys. Take care.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560. The Answer.
Who would have dreamed the last few years would have played out like they have? The government is trying to help people financially, but they're just as broke. They're printing trillions of dollars, and with each extra dollar printed, the dollar loses more buying power. In times like these, we don't need more paper, we need a store of value that will stand the test of time. In the Bible, according to the 2nd chapter of Genesis, gold is mentioned just 4 short